Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Early Edge. It's going to be a great Tuesday. We got a great show for you today. But before we bring in the stars of the show, let's go ahead and look at the recap screen from Monday. A lot of green, 5-1 buckets, 2 for 2. Absolutely nailed his pick. Mackenzie Brooks, 1 for 2. Larry hits UAB money line and the sports line play. South Carolina State Howard over 153.5. Courtesy of Bruce Marshall. That one hits as well. We already got so many people in the chat. Hello, Reed Phillips, David Tock, Mark Buckholtz, GS Squared, Michael Mokrai, CLE fan, Gus Dawson. Speaking of GS Squared, let's bring in the stars of the show because we've got M Squared here today. And of course, we've got Mikey B, and we haven't seen Danny Brasco in a few days. Danny's here to talk some UFC. But before we get started with any picks, Mikey B, I got to start with you because we talked about the we talked about the trades yesterday, but you weren't here. So your reaction, obviously De'Aaron Fox kind of was the undercard here, to use a Danny Brasco term. It was obviously Luka and AD kind of being the featured attraction. Your response to trade weekend?
Yeah, that Luka Doncic trade is malpractice by the Mavericks. To not even shop Luka is insane. All the reports are that the Lakers were the only team that they talked to, which is insane. I don't like the idea of trading him, period. But if you want to make that decision, you have to shop him. There has to be so say they have their sights set on Anthony Davis. Well, okay, let's get a third team in there and get some more draft picks or something. There had to have been another machination of this trade where they got more value. I hated it. As a Bulls fan, I love that Zach LaVine is no longer on the Bulls. Get him out of here. They can't win with him. I have insisted for the last couple of years they are much better without him. So good riddance. See you later, Zach LaVine.
All right. Yeah, interesting. I mean, I feel like there's more to that Lucas story that details will trickle out. And I don't really want to speculate too much, but it did seem very strange how readily they were, again, it just seems like they could have gotten more. It just came out of nowhere. Danny Brasco, how you doing today? And I got to ask you, because I haven't seen you in a few days. I know you have UFC picks. And I know we've been talking a lot of Super Bowl. I got to ask you for a lean. Are you going against the Magic Mahomes, or what's going on? I think you pledged to not do that a couple of weeks back.
Sia, if you've seen me watching Chiefs games the last couple of weeks, I'm leaned over a cauldron of fire, casting the dark magic voodoo spells, because if you can't beat them, join them. I was on the Niners last year. I thought it was the obvious sharp play. He came out to a great start, and then Mahomes does what he does. He's the witch king, as I call him now. So I'm on the Chiefs side at this point. You don't make Mahomes a dog or a favorite of a field goal or less. He's 28-9-1 against the spread in that spot, 9-2 against the spread in the playoffs. And that's the long and short of it. Like, it doesn't seem like a complex analysis, but my handicap is that if you make Mahomes a favorite of less than a field goal, Harrison Butker is going to win as the clock expires on you. So if the Eagles have success, I don't think they can sustain it. I'm joining the Chiefs bandwagon. I'm not betting against history. The three-peat is happening, Sia.
Mike McClure, that's got to be music to your ears, because I know we all know that Danny Brasco is pretty sharp. Are you looking at, this is an interesting thing because there's so much to bet on for the Super Bowl, and I know you respect the Eagles. Are you looking to the prop market, or are you actually going to bet on Kansas City in the Super Bowl?
I have not bet aside yet. Still leaning on Kansas City that way. Still watching, seeing if we get any sort of late movement here. Still going to have some interest in over 10.5 Kansas City's first half team total, but mostly looking at props and some unders on positions I've seen a lot of people take overs on. So it'll be very interesting to see how it plays out. But I tend to think we see very limited possessions in this game.
Yeah.
Both teams, 10 to 12 play drives, no big plays, things like that.
It's part of the reason I have the first half under as an official play, but it's also why I've hesitated to take a prop that I liked when I initially saw it. I liked Patrick Mahomes over 23.5 completions, but I'm starting to think, Mike, because of those limited possessions, he just simply might not get there. We know they're going to move the ball via the pass, the short area pass specifically, but let me get your opinion on the 23.5 completions. A lot of people are on Patrick Mahomes' attempts as well. I prefer the completions even against this great defense, but it does seem like he could get stuck on 20 or 21 because he's a possession or two short thanks to ball control here.
Yeah, I lean over still on the completions. If I wanted to attack either completions or attempts, it would be completions, leaning more on efficiency with Mahomes. Now, before we pivot or move on, I have to comment on Luka as well.
Yeah.
Just the Luka revenge games are going to be phenomenal headed up. So they do play in a couple of weeks in LA. But keeping in mind Luka's revenge, obviously, some of you guys have seen he just recently bought the house less than a couple of weeks ago. This move to LA will cost him a good $150 million just because of the contract that he's eligible for. And then the 12.3% income tax that he is going to be paying on those home games now that doesn't exist in a no income tax state like Texas. That is a big deal for everyone, but it's a massive deal when you're making 50, 60, 70 million dollars a year. It's an extra $7 to $10 million on the top that he is missing out on. I think Luka overs at any number in the first one for sure.
Danny Brasco, where else do we get this analysis? That was brilliant. Go ahead.
I love that. Yeah, I was the Supermax deal. He's missing out on 129 million, but Mike hit you with the no state income tax in Dallas. A Supermax in Dallas is worth so much more. I wanted to comment on one thing regarding the Super Bowl as well. 2 weeks in a row now, Patrick Mahomes over rush attempts has cashed sweat-free for us, and the number has gone up from 4.5 to 6.5. I see it sitting around plus money there. Instead of completions or pass attempts, look for him to use the wheels, man. Always sneaky in January and February with his wheels. I'm going to keep playing it. I think, again, if they're leading and they end the game with kneels, you get those. So rush attempts, still a good play for Patrick Mahomes, even at this inflated number, I think.
All right, let's get to some picks. By the way, Stephen Cook, I actually forgot, Mike, we did the network show yesterday. I don't think you were on the morning show, right? And I probably should have come to you for NBA, but I'm reminded of it because Stephen Cook says, M2, we need another Harvard tip. Everybody played that. We had actually a losing day yesterday, recap screen wise, but it wasn't an official play, obviously. But that Harvard tip you gave out at the end of the show, I saw the chat. It blew up. So many people played that Harvard play. So good on you for that. All right, Mikey B, let's move from Harvard to the NBA. You've got a couple of NBA props.
Yeah, we're going to preface this by saying the trade deadline is in 2 days. Be very careful playing sides early in the day, because we could see a lot of trades. So if you want to do something, go with props as opposed to sides at 10 a.m. Eastern time in the morning. So our first player prop, we're going to do Karl Anthony Towns over 23.5 points at -106. The Knicks are playing the Raptors. He has faced them 3 times this season. In those games, he scored 24, 31, and 27 points. Now, this is the second game of a back-to-back set for the Knicks. Towns logged 38 minutes yesterday against the Rockets. I'm not worried about that. Tibbs plays his guys. Towns has played the second game of a back-to-back set 5 times this season. He scored at least 24 points in all 5 of those games. The Raptors have the 6th worst defensive rating in the league, so I think he has another big night in scoring department. And then we're going to go to the Clippers against the Lakers. Norman Powell over 21.5 points at -110. Powell sat out Sunday's game against the Raptors. He's back here. He's averaging over 24 points per game for the season, so we're getting a bit of a discount on this line. Kawhi Leonard is back, but that hasn't stopped Powell from scoring at least 22 points in 8 straight games. Last time he played the Lakers, Powell scored 22 points, and that was with Kawhi there. We're talking about this Luka trade. Well, guess what? The Lakers lost their 2 best defensive players, and Anthony Davis and Max Christie. So Norman Powell is going to feast in this game in over 21.5 points.
All right. And I'm pretty sure when you were giving out that take, Big Cheesy was putting in Cat over 23.5 points. I don't know if that was a coincidence or not, because I didn't time it up, but I'm pretty sure he was putting that pick out as you were giving your take. So you guys are absolutely in sync there. Greatest Poet Alive says, took points and money line on Harvard. Thanks, M squared. Let's see. Are the Wolves going to move Randall? Maybe we'll get to that later in the show. We got to get to some UFC picks first. Danny, it's been a minute. Talk to me about some UFC.
Yeah, we got UFC 312 coming up here this weekend, and UFC Fight Night Saudi Arabia, which was a free card, was arguably more sexy of a card and interesting than this pay-per-view. But nonetheless, we venture to attack it. If 2 people are punching each other on the face, I'm betting on it. So first one, I got a plus 200 dog for you. This is a guy I like coming off Dana White's Contender Series who showed some real grit and toughness to him. It's Jonathan the Caliph, who will be at home down under here. This card is taking place in Sydney, Australia. And the Aussies are going to have the hometown backing in a major way, man. These guys are just made up of crazy toughness. And McCallum brings this physical grappling style that I really like. He's facing a kickboxer in Kevin Jousset that certainly scaled his power in his hands, training out of City Kickboxing Gym. But they've kind of lost their mystique. That's Israel Adesanya's gym. That's Alexander Volkanovski's gym. It used to be like, oh my God, you're facing a City Kickboxing guy? Good luck. Now that mystique is dropping away a little bit. And I think Jousset showed that he can break. In his last fight, he lost to Brian Battle, a guy that was putting the pressure on him, landed some good strikes. getting some grappling going. I think McCaleb can do the same thing. Look out for McCaleb's back takes. I actually fancy the submission at plus 1,000. I think McCaleb can get to him, get him on the ground, and put him in some nasty positions. So check out maybe a sprinkle on a plus 1,000 submission prop for the underdog, Jonathan McCaleb here. And my other pick is going to be on a tough name for Sia to pronounce on the recap screen, but I'll give him a break. It's Vyacheslav Borshev, but friends call him Slava. And I think Slava Claus is coming back to town this weekend against his opponent, Tom Nolan. The key for Slava, he needs to face a fellow kickboxer. His struggles in the UFC and his MMA career, where he's gone 8-4, have all been against grapplers, right? He faced Mark Jacasey, who went on this wrestling run and became what we called Mark Jacobib, wrestled him for 3 rounds. He faced Mike Davis next, another wrestler. Chase Hooper, a grappler who came with striking and surprised him. Now he gets another kickboxer who is 8-1, has a lot of hype, but I don't really buy it. And he showed in his last fight that he's not all that dangerous. He faced a guy that was on a 4-year layoff and couldn't finish him. So I'm not that high on Tom Nolan. I think he's going to have a tough test. And Borshev has got really good low kicks, digs good hooks to the body. He's got a fellow kickboxer. This is a good matchup for him. Take Slava at minus 135. I think that's value.
You know what's interesting about the Slava Claus name? I think I can actually pronounce that, but I think I missed the first take. How do you pronounce the first name?
Vyacheslav is how you say it, but everyone calls him Slava.
No, I meant the McCullough one, Jonathan.
Oh, Jonathan McCaleb. Yeah, that's right.
McCaleb. All right.
I believe that's right. But really what we're looking for is Slava to win and to hit the Russian dance. It's so awesome. So look for that.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to make these picks, I got an idea. If you haven't heard this yet, you're going to want to listen in. BetMGM has a really good promo going on. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, sign up now, and you'll get up to $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM, plus a 1-year free subscription to SportsLine with bonus code SportsLine 1500. Get exclusive members-only picks for all major sports from proven models and 40-plus Vegas experts, plus predictive tools for pick'em, brackets, player stats, and more. Get this offer in 4 easy steps. Download the BetMGM Sports app and register an account using bonus code SportsLine 1500. Make your first deposit at least $10. Place your first wager and receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if the bet loses. Claim your free 1-year subscription to SportsLine in your BetMGM inbox. Really good stuff there. All right, we got to get to, I don't have a golf pick for today. I'm going to have golf picks tomorrow and the rest of the week. But I do have golf outrights that I've already put into the SportsLine Discord, and I'm going to give all of them out to you. And Mike McClure has a college basketball play that he's probably going to hit yet again. We're going to cover all of it after this message from our partners.
We need your sports news anywhere.
We've got breaking news to bring you.
Then get your sports anytime you want them. Big trade news overnight to discuss.
Because we know you need sports all the time.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
A legend adds to their legacy.
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
CBS Sports HQ, anywhere, anytime, all the time.
All right, we're back on the Early Edge, brought to you by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. I've got some Super Bowl picks to consider, some props, and of course, every week in golf, I'll have matchups, but I'm waiting for more matchups to come out, so you'll see more of those tomorrow. Of course, I gave out the nationality prop yesterday. It was Nick Taylor, top Canadian at plus 280. I'm going to give you some outrights, though. I'm going to give you 5 outrights in the without Scotty Scheffler market, which most major books have already opened this market up as of last night. Here are my 5 outrights. And Mike, I'm going to get maybe 1 or 2 outrights that you're at least considering as well. And I don't know that they're on this list. Tom Kim plus 2,500, Mav McNeely plus 4,500, Sam Stevens plus 5,500, Hoffman at plus 9,000, and Doug Gim at 100 to 1. Those last 2 are very much sprinkle bets. Again, this is the winners without Scotty Scheffler. Top 3 are my main investment here. Mike, I want to go to you because when I broke down this tournament, my first thought was, man, a lot of bombers seem to have success at the WM Phoenix Open. And then I ran my model and I was like, all right, well, I leaned a lot on off the tee, which, kind of correlates with bombers, of course. I leaned on a lot on recent approach. And I also just leaned on recent form, right? And these guys sort of ended up coming up. So I ended up kind of, not really getting into the bomber narrative outside of maybe Sam Stevens. I mean, I think he would qualify. Do you have 1 or 2 guys, and is it the bomber narrative that you went with from an outright perspective?
Yeah, mostly the bomber narrative for me. The guy on this list that you've got that I like a little bit would be Mav McNeely. But as far as guys that I'm looking at right here, number 1, it's still all long shots, really. Kurt Kitayama. I like Kurt Kitayama quite a bit here in the desert. Everything profiles pretty well. for him. I like the amateur Luke Clanton. Model's been extremely high on him, and you'd have to be a little cautious there. Some of that is just really small sample sizes. But I do like Clanton and Kitayama quite a bit here.
Mike, I was on a show yesterday, and I read out the top 3 in my model, and it was Scotty Scheffler, believe it or not, Kurt Kitayama was second, and Luke Clanton was third.
Yep.
I personally couldn't get around on putting outrights on them because I didn't think they could close this tournament, but I love what you just said about both of them. Clanton also hasn't played at the Phoenix Open, so there's that to potentially factor in. But both of those guys profile so well, so I absolutely love those 2 names you brought up. All right, let's move on from golf to college basketball. You're targeting another team total under, and it's Eastern Illinois.
It's Eastern Illinois. You know, all the marquee matchups today, Sia, you've got St. John's, Marquette, Kentucky, Ole Miss, and Eastern Illinois, SIU, Edwardsville. When I look at this particular matchup, though, Eastern Illinois is a team that I want to fade. I went under on their team total here, under 62.5. Got this number all the way down to 58 in my model here. This team is just not good offensively. We track 362 college basketball teams. This team is 338th in offensive rating. Now they walk into a situation where they're not only not the better team, but they're playing SIEU, and they play at a very slow pace overall. And they have a substantial edge in this game in terms of rebounding. So what I see from Eastern Illinois, they're going to struggle to get to the free throw line, but they're going to struggle to rebound, which is going to mean they're not going to have many second chance opportunities. This to me projects as one of those games where it's just slow and ugly. First team to 60 probably wins this game. It's very likely to be SIEU in this particular matchup. So Eastern Illinois, I get that it's a very low number, 62.5. I think they're ultimately going to land in the low to mid 50s tonight in this matchup. So I went under 62.5 here on their team total.
All right, I'm going to go around the horn and see if there were any questions in the chat for us. Mikey B, I'm going to start with you, but I don't think I gave out the SportsLine pick. The SportsLine pick is courtesy of Jeff Hockman, and it's the Carolina Hurricanes money line. Again, Carolina Hurricanes money line is the SportsLine pick. We go to the NHL. All right, back to the NBA. Mikey B, was there anything in the chat worthy of talking about?
So Cleveland fan said he's going to the Celtics Cavaliers game tonight and asked for a bet or a lean on that. I would just take the Cavaliers on the money line. I love them at home. Celtics are great, but they have been a little disappointing lately. They had to have a big comeback over the 76ers just to win that the other day. Cleveland at home has been money this year, so I would take that one.
All right, Danny Brasco.
I got a question for Mikey B. Regarding all this Luka trade kind of lore and the stories, right? It happened in the shadows. LeBron didn't know. KD reacting on his phone on the side. Luka's father putting out the statement. Like, are you buying all of this, or is this just like gossip and drama? Like, I find it hard to believe that this much money changed hands for this level of superstar, and so many executives and players that were involved just didn't know. Like, and that Pelinka finessed Nico Harrison in this way. Are you buying all of this?
Some of it. I know Harrison and Pelinka are friends. They've known each other for a long time. Supposedly the deal was bigger. Connect was in the deal. There was also that 2031 draft pick from the Lakers that was in the deal. And Pelinka was somehow able to convince Harrison that who else was going to get Luka, I guess, was his. I guess Harrison really wanted Anthony Davis. He has a close relationship with Anthony Davis, and that was the guy he zeroed in on. I mean, who else? The Celtics are not going to trade Jason Tatum. These kinds of players would be the ones you would need to get. The Bucks aren't going to trade Giannis. So I guess he really wanted Anthony Davis. And I think LeBron probably knew as the deal got close. But I can't believe that the other teams in the league didn't know, which is wild. Even Danny Ainge didn't know till like 30 minutes before, and he was the third team in the deal. He had to help facilitate it, and he didn't know that Luka was in it.
Wow.
Go ahead, Mike.
I would say, yeah, I found it interesting that Anthony Davis also was very quick to waive the no trade clause, freeing up some cap and making things easier for the Mavs, which I think is interesting. Tells you he doesn't necessarily hate the situation. But I think that it really comes down to Luka had to get paid from Dallas. And I don't think Dallas wants to put up with Luka not being in shape and doesn't trust him at all, and thought that it was now or never in terms of time to move on.
Eat your vegetables, kids. Eat your vegetables.
all for Anthony Street Clothes Davis. He better stay healthy.
Well, he's been healthy for the last few years for the most part. But he is, a little bit past his prime. He's still, I mean, if he stays healthy, he's got a good 4 or 5 years still left in the league.
And Kyrie Irving is liable to read a new religious scripture at any point and go off to become a Taoist monk somewhere. So he, it's now on him. So it's a big bet, man.
Kyrie. Max Struess says, Properaki. He says Max Struess 1.5 threes, 70% versus Boston. And we have Big Cheesy saying Jared Allen over 11.5 points at -125. I apologize if I didn't get to your picks. I'll do a better job tomorrow, and I'll have my own actual, instead of just giving you outrights, I'll have golf picks tomorrow as well, maybe a Super Bowl pick. Let's take a look at the picks we have today. Well, let's see. I'm going to try to pronounce some of this. All right. Oh, this is going to be tough. Brasco, I may need your help. Jonathan Micallef. That's wrong. Micallef? McAuliffe. Plus 200. I knew I was going to get that wrong. That's money line. And then, Slava Claus, but it's Borshev. Borshev is his last name. Vyacheslav Borshev. Man, you're crushing me. This is buckets all over again. Karl Anthony Towns over 23.5 points from Mikey B, and Norman Powell over 21.5 points from Mikey B. And Mike McClure, Eastern Illinois, team total under 62.5. The SportsLine pick, Carolina Hurricanes money line. That one is courtesy, of course, of Jeff Hockman. Everybody's making fun of my pronunciation. I deserve it. Ladies and gentlemen, that was a great show. We went 5-1 today, and we're going to try to run it back. We're going to have even more picks for you tomorrow. Definitely make sure you're subscribed to this channel and that you have your notifications turned on, especially as we get toward the stretch heading toward the Super Bowl. Everybody, thank you for being in here. David Talk, Eddie Cotto, Big Cheesy, Cleveland fan, Gipper's Picks, Brad Morris. Thank you for being a part of this experience every single morning. You are part of the family. My name is Sia Nejad. I'm the counselor of cash. And on behalf of me and Mike McClure and Danny Brasco and Mikey B, and of course, Ben on the 1s and 2s and 3s and 4, and Larry Hartstein in the chat, by the way, the maestro. This is the Early Edge. We rest our case.